Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Some massive news late Monday night for the Ohio State fans as four-star offensive lineman Max Riley commits to Ohio State. This recruitment, kind of a roller coaster of a ride for the last couple of months, right? Ohio State, leader in the clubhouse, sounded like Clemson was the favorite to land him at a time, winds up committing to Ohio State. Hey, anytime you get to keep blue chip offensive linemen from the state of Ohio going to Ohio State, that's a big win for Ohio State. But the first thing that kind of comes to my mind is Tyler Bowen flexing his muscles on the recruiting trail. This was a really big storyline that I don't think people talked enough about when Tyler Bowen came to Ohio State. Yes, a very good offensive line coach. We know that from his track record coaching. I thought the biggest asset he could bring to Ohio State is what he does on the recruiting trail. Look, Justin Fry, not a bad football coach, but didn't exactly recruit to the standard that I think Ohio State expects on the offensive line. And it's kind of evident in terms of what Ohio State did in the offseason, grabbing two starting tackles in the transfer portal. That's not a position that you want to be in every single offseason. And I think that was kind of indicative of just a not good enough job stacking blue chip talent on the offensive line from the high school ranks. You're bringing Tyler Bowen not only because you think he's a really good football coach, but you also bring him in to kind of give Ohio State that juice they needed when it comes to recruiting the offensive line position. And we kind of say this all the time. The offensive line spot is the one position that you really want to get right. Where if you're Ohio State, look, if you want to go have to grab a wide receiver in the portal, of which Ohio State probably will never have to do, but if you had to, you can go do that. If you want to go grab a running back in the portal, it's pretty easy to grab a running back. Heck, if you want to grab a quarterback in the portal, you can kind of do that too. Finding quality starting caliber offensive linemen at the power four level, it's really hard to do. And so as a result, you got to make sure you're winning these recruiting battles at the high school ranks. And I think you could argue it hasn't been bad for Ohio State, but it never really seemed to be up to the standard where Ohio State expected it. And Tyler Bowen with an early but really big win on the recruiting trail for Maxwell Riley. Now you get into Maxwell Riley, and I think what stands out to me the most is the versatility. I think he certainly has the frame and the athleticism to play at tackle. I look at the film and say he might be best at guard because when he is playing in a phone booth, that's probably when he's at his best. He's a really physically imposing offensive lineman. He's really nasty and can move bodies off the line of scrimmage. Really good pull and play side, climbing to the second level. You get a versatile offensive lineman and you get a blue chip body, kind of a consensus top 100 recruit, top 10 offensive tackle in the 2026 class. This is big for Ohio State. Want to get a little bit more into Max Riley, and I want to kind of preview what Ohio State's board looks like on the offensive line in this 2026 cycle. Before we get into it, as always, the Ohio State fans, let it fly in the comment section. I wouldn't even say slow start for Ohio State because it's very early on in 2026, and they are starting to build this class out as we go into spring visits and summer visits. If y'all do enjoy the content, and if y'all enjoy talking the recruiting trail, appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, let's get into Max Riley. And I think it starts with the versatility. I think it starts with the nastiness this dude plays with. You turn on the junior year film, he wants to road grid. He wants to impose his will specifically in the run game. That's probably why I like him most at guard. There's not a ton of pass protection on his junior year stuff. And that's not necessarily saying he can't do it, because when you watch some of the film, even him in the run game, he's pulling play side, he's climbing to the second level, actually flashes some really nice athleticism on the defensive side of the football, playing two ways. I think he's the athlete to play tackle. I know he has the length to play tackle. It's now just the conversation of, all right, where is he best at for Ohio State over the next couple of years? We say this all the time. When you have the ability to grab a versatile body, a guy that could play guard, a guy that could play tackle, it really makes it easier to put your best five offensive linemen out on the football field. Max Riley is a guy that probably is going to bring that for Ohio State. Now, you get into what the board looks like for Ohio State. It starts and not doesn't start and end with, but it starts with, 5-star offensive tackle Jackson Campbell. I'll say this. He's got to be one of the more impressive offensive tackle prospects that we've seen in a really long time coming out in this 2026 cycle. It starts with this guy. God don't make many Jackson Campbells. 6'7.5", 300 pounds, carries the weight exceptionally well. Not only a really good athlete, especially for that size, this kid is about as powerful as it gets. And he's a powerful kid because he's one of the best throwers in the country in the track and field. That translates quite clearly to the football field. This guy's a people mover. He's very good in the run game, but he's a good enough athlete to be in pass protection as well. At the end of the day, you don't get many opportunities to add a guy like Jackson Cantwell to your roster, and I would expect Ohio State to really push their chips in for a guy like Jackson Campbell, very similar to what Michigan's doing. It's a very good shot. It might come down to Ohio State and Michigan in this one. Another Ohio State-Michigan battle with Texas in there as well is Felix Ojo. Young guy, first class. I believe he's still only 16 years old, finishing up his junior year. You got to put a little bit more weight on this kid. But what stands out to me is, one, he's a phenomenal athlete that has all the physical specs that you want in an offensive tackle. It has a little bit of like that physical imposing nature to him, even though he doesn't completely have a filled out frame. What excites me the most about Felix Ojo is he's only 16 years old. What does he, one, look like when he's 18 years old? And I think more importantly, what does he play like when he's 18 years old? Because this kid, you can tell, is still developing, but already a phenomenal athlete with some big-time power in the hands. And I think the last name you probably want to throw in there, and this is very fluid, it's going to change as we see the dominoes start to fall, so to speak. Sam Greer, 6'6.5", 310. Probably a little bit more of a developmental prospect. He's a really, really big kid that has a lot, in my opinion, a lot of stuff to clean up technically. At the end of the day, if you're Ohio State, you're betting on this kind of body, 6'7", 310. I think he has enough athleticism. I think you want to kind of coach it up a little bit more. But when you get the chance to add a guy with this kind of frame to your offensive line and let him kind of throw him in the crock pot, so to speak, slow cook him, Sam Greer, another in-state kid that you definitely want. We know Ohio State's going to grab the quarterbacks. We know Ohio State's going to grab the wide receivers. We know Ohio State's going to grab the defensive linemen. The one position that you've seen Ohio State, kind of struggling is recruiting the offensive line. And if you're an Ohio State fan, this is a really good sign. Tyler Bowen coming in and locking down one of your top prospects on the offensive line. And this kind of came about quickly, right? Because Justin Fry, he was the main guy recruiting a guy like Max Riley. And now Tyler Bowen comes in within about a month, locks in the commitment. That's what you want it to look like if you're an Ohio State fan with Tyler Bowen joining this program. We'll close it out there. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.